It's time for the Rick Smith Show. Now, here is the voice of the working class, Rick Smith. Now, here is Rick Smith.
So the 2024 presidential race, well, shaping up. You've got RFK Jr. announcing his independent bid. You've got all the craziness on the right with that cabal of kookery. And now you've got Cenk Uygur, who is running as a Democrat, going to give Joe Biden a challenge. And, you know, I got to tell you, I had a thought when I saw this announcement. Maybe he should stage an event with Alex Jones where Alex Jones pushes him down an escalator. That'd be a good idea. Now, here's the weird thing. Cenk cannot run for president because he's not a naturally born citizen. So for me, what is this? This is, Cenk being Cenk. It's all about the attention. But we'll see. We'll see how this goes. And this is one of those situations where maybe you should not screw around because you might find out that you might get bitten. Anyway, here to share some thoughts on what is coming. And did I mention we still don't have a speaker? I've asked our good friend Fred Wellman to come talk with us. Fred is a Democratic strategist, also the host of On Democracy with FP Wellman. You can find that where you find your podcasts. Fred, thanks for taking time for us.
Good to be back, brother. How are you, sir?
I'm good. So what do you think? Cenk running for president. What do you think there?
The stunt to get some marketing and the same thing. The thing is, like you said, something clear is like Trump be fat and happy, living in Trump Tower, living large if he hadn't ran for president. Now he's got 91 charges. His company's being dismantled in New York. I mean, if you want the attention, you'll get the attention. And Cenk wants attention. He lives for attention. So of course he can't run for president. And of course he's not going to take it to the Supreme Court because it's clear. I mean, the Supreme Court interprets the Constitution. Constitution's pretty clear on this. So, it's just another stunt. Same thing with Robert Kennedy running was a stunt. This is what they do. Whatever. But we've got serious things to worry about.
There are those out there who are pushing for a primary challenge for Biden. You got Romney. Mitt Romney's going to save the Democratic.
I saw that.
Mitt's out there trying to find a Democratic challenger.
Biden's doing fine. Biden's numbers are great. You see the resolute ways leading us through this Israel crisis. There's a lot of hand wringing. I was at the Democrat National Committee's fall meeting in St. Louis, and I didn't see any hand wringing. What I saw, there wasn't any of the usual. As a matter of fact, I had an interview with Jamie Harrison about it, and nobody's wringing their hands. Or Biden's doing just fine. I mean, look, the key is I had Simon Rosenberg on my show the other day. He's the guy that predicted that the red wave would not be a red wave, right? And Simon brings up some really good points. I mean, everybody's freaking out about polls and stuff, but the fact is the Republicans are in the middle of a fairly relatively heated primary thanks to DeSantis and all the other stuff. They're running against Trump. Trump's got all his criminal cases. There's a lot of focus on politics on the Republican side. On the Democratic side, we don't really have a primary. Nothing's really going on. I'm talking to Democratic candidates around the country run for office. They're getting nervous because they're not raising money, but I keep telling them the Democratic electorate isn't energized yet. They're not engaged. It's still the first Iowa caucus is until January. We're just the election season hasn't kicked in on the Democratic side yet. And when it does, you'll see a lot more interest and the numbers will be more realistic. But if you rely on polls right now and you've got half your electorate's not really paying attention, the other half is, it's going to be skewed, and they are skewed, and they're just as skewed as they've been in the past. So all this hand-wringing about polls or Biden being old, it's about results. And that's the last thing Simon always reminds me of, and I really enjoy talking about, is the fact is that for 40 elections since Dobbs, Democrats have overperformed now 12 points in every district they've been in. That doesn't even include Wisconsin. So people are going to wring their hands, but in the end, Joe Biden probably is going to be the nominee, and Joe Biden will do just fine.
I don't pay a lot of attention to the polls outside of
it's a joke.
Outside of pointing out the fact that you can manipulate them any way you want. It's what has been happening for a very long time. But here's the thing. I look at the fact that, did you know we don't have a Speaker of the House?
Yeah, isn't that hilarious? I mean, in the middle of a crisis, I actually did a whole video about it today. Is one of the big Republican talking points, other than $6 billion, has been that this has been all this is happening because we project weakness to the world. And I did an entire laundry list of, it's them.
Exactly.
It's them. It's the fact we don't have a speaker. It's the fact that they only shut the government down because they can't even agree amongst themselves. The major party that runs the House of Representatives can't even govern. They're not interested in governing. The leader of their party is indicted 4 times, has 91 criminal charges. One of their members in good standing just had yet another 27 charges brought against him, and they haven't kicked him out. And then you and I are old enough to remember when there used to be, kids probably don't know about this, but there used to be this thing called Rally Around the Flag. It's really a cute little thing we used to do back in the day, where when there was an international crisis or a national crisis, we put aside partisan politics to rally around our leaders and do the right thing for the world. And the Republican Party has trashed that and burned it to the ground because they've spent the last 3 days, when Israelis and Americans, 22 Americans died, they've spent the last 3 days attacking Americans, attacking Biden, attacking our military with Tommy Tuberville's 3 holds. So look, I take no stock of the Republican Party, and the only projection of weakness to the world is the fact that they know that one of our parties is completely beholden to Putin and completely beholden to nothing more than their own power structure. So I don't really give a damn what they think.
Tim Scott, running for president, wants to be president, saying Joe Biden's got blood on his hands. I mean, to your point,
disgusting, just disgusting.
Point exactly. I mean, we used to say, all of our fighting stopped at the water's edge. Much like you said, when things happened on the international stage, we rallied around our president and showed a united front. Not anymore. And I gotta wonder, why that has changed in the Republican Party, because I'm old enough to remember, Ronald Reagan didn't much care for the Russians. How is it now we've got a Republican Party spewing Russian talking points?
Well, it's because I think we could go on, we could do an entire week on that alone, but I think in a lot of ways this they've given into a what is essentially a white nationalist viewpoint, whether that they didn't realize it, a Christian nationalist viewpoint. There is this myth in the Christian right, the far right, that Putin is somehow a knight of the Christian movement, that he has re-energized the right-wing Christian movement, and people don't really count that enough. How pervasive the belief is that Putin is the one man in Europe trying to fight for the blood, fight for the Christianity, and he's taken the fight. So there's this weird, that weird part. The second weird part is this bizarre horniness they have for despots. They just love the strong man, and then so I just think it goes on and on and on, and they love Putin. They love the idea that he's the tough guy. I just can't figure out. I live in Missouri, brother. I actually talked to a reporter today here, and none of us can understand why Josh Hawley is calling to defund support for Ukraine and send the support to Israel. He's literally, and his excuse is that Hamas is an existential threat to Israel, whereas Putin has literally said he's going to completely eradicate the Ukraine state as a nation, and even inculcate their people into his people. He's kidnapping children. That literally that's the definition of an existential threat to a nation, is the idea that it will be eliminated if it loses its war. And we've got a U.S. senator who lives in Virginia, not Missouri, saying we should let that happen. And I don't get it. I just don't get it. Although again, I go back to remember, Josh is a hardcore Christian. He's all excited to have Israelis kill Muslims, but he wants to stop the fight with Putin. It's very suspicious to me, and I'd love to ask him a question about it, but he doesn't come to our state unless he's forced to.
He doesn't come to your state. But I saw that, and I've seen a lot of things out of Holly, like him going to a picket line, and I found
oh my God.
Curious.
You should have heard about that. I got an earful about that one at some of the union members at the DNC, because the DNC was hard. Obviously the energy at the DNC fall meeting for labor, the passion, the way that the energy, Rick, for you as a labor guy, the energy that I heard from the labor representatives at the meeting. I sat in the labor caucus meeting. Bernie Sanders opened it with his classic Bernie telling it like it is, which makes him so funny. But the passion, because Biden went to the picket line, because he has said in no unwavering or uncertain terms that the Democratic Party is the party of labor, it was really interesting. And so I think that was a game changer. So then to have Josh Hawley, and JD Vance show up, I mean, to me, it's just a sign that he saw the polls. I think Josh is in trouble this time. I don't, what's in trouble? I mean, it's Missouri, so he's maybe it's within 10 points, maybe. But if it's within 10 points, Josh is scared. Lucas Kuntz is coming on strong. He's learned his lessons from this first campaign. He's got a very capable campaign. He's got the same campaign team, so they've learned some good lessons. So they're running a very tight campaign. I think Hawley's getting the message that he's the most unpopular senator in the Senate, which is amazing because there's Tuberville and Marsha Blackburn, but here we are. It's amazing what they'll do. The shamelessness and the lack of hypocrisy, Gene. They just.
When the top of the ticket is Donald Trump, there
you go.
There's nothing down ticket that's going to be surprising.
Yeah. Shame has been removed as a gene in their bodies, that's for sure.
Which is why I look at Jim Jordan throwing his name into the ring to run for speaker. I mean, how does that guy with his history, knowing that all of the stories about his time as an assistant coach at Ohio State had to come out?
There's literally a documentary coming out.
Yeah,
isn't there a documentary coming out?
Which is why I think he did step back and eventually go, okay, I'm gonna support Scalise because he.
I don't know if he did. I don't know if he's done that. To be honest with you, Rick, I'm not sure that's actually occurring. I still always see the Nancy Mace is still up there saying she won't vote for him. She's going to vote for Jordan. MTG is saying that.
Yeah, but Nancy Mace also said there are Democrats who are going to vote for Jordan.
Isn't she amazing? I mean, she is. I mean, every time there's just so many characters who are never cease to amaze me on the right. And Nancy's special because she's a special kind of nut job. And because they think she's normal and people try to drag her out. I mean, I had a friend text me, a reporter again, text me why the heck is she on the media every night? And because she's such a liar. I love seeing Jake Tapper's face. He just, or whoever it was just Chuck like Todd, Chuck Todd. No, it was, CNN. Anyway, he was just like, name one. name one Democrat that trusts Jim Jordan. Nobody trusts Jim Jordan. He's a crook. I had a guest in the show, Dennis Aftergut. He's a former federal prosecutor. I got to get the clip. I got to run the clip. And he said, it was when Jim Jordan started his antics about 8 months ago, or 6 months ago. He said, Jim Jordan has one move. His brand is simple. His brand is faceplant. And Jim Jordan is one long faceplant. So it's pretty entertaining to see him try and act like it. But again, the same thing with Scalise. Scalise has stepped up now. People are going to start going through his record. If you decide to go from, just being a member of the caucus, even the number 2, I don't think these guys realize the media scrutiny that will go with stepping up. And so I'm looking forward to every speech. Like already, my friends at Midas Touch, where my show's broadcast on the Midas Touch Network. Midas Touch is already going through where in 2012 he said that Social Security, Medicaid, and Medicare needed to be cut if we were going to try and balance the budget. They're already going through and finding his speeches he gave at white nationalist conferences. These guys have lived in a bubble, being told how awesome they are for so long. They're not ready for the exposure that's going to go with being a national figure. So I say welcome to the party, fellas. We're here for you. No. And people like you and me, we're going to call them out.
No, absolutely. And I wanted Trump as speaker. I still want Trump as speaker.
Oh my God, that would be amazing because there actually work that has to occur, and Trump's never done a day of work in his life.
Such truth is spoken right there. So on the speaker front, because at some point there has to be one.
Yeah.
Or does
there? In theory. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, look, I think I've been calling it the temporary speaker. Jamie Harrison said it great because when they took over the House, it's just an Airbnb, it's just a long-term rental because they're not going to hold the House long. The fact is, I think it'll probably be Scalise and it'll be a disaster. It's not uniting. They cannot unite their caucus. Nothing's going to change as far as their ability to actually pass an agenda. I have no idea if he'll be able to legislate and work with the Senate. I don't know if he's had any interest. I think maybe he'll be held hostage by his caucus as much as McCarthy was. Yeah. I believe in my heart that what the number one thing that Matt Gaetz and his renegades did is assure that that the Democrats will take over the House.
And I think that was on purpose. And I got to tell you, maybe you'll disagree. but I think it was on purpose because I don't think Republicans want to be in the majority. I think
No,
they want
no,
to stay as
governing's
bomb
hard.
throwers. I think they
Yeah.
want to stay as
Yeah.
the the whiners, the complainers, the finger pointers. I think that's who they want to be. They don't have an agenda. They've got no policy initiatives. They've got no vision, no ideas. So it's easy to be the party of no, especially when you're not the one leading the show.
Right, right. Which is why it's so funny to see the Democrats do such a brilliant job under Hakeem Jeffries, just doing exactly that, but dismantling them at every turn, and not, they're not able to govern. And I said it when they took it. I said I wrote I think I just one of my videos, and I said, look, in a lot of ways, the Republicans are taking the House with such a slim majority is a great opportunity for us who are pundits, if you will, or super PACs, to show exactly what Republican-controlled government will look like. And this is the message I want them to use in Virginia. Hey, look, and I talked to Jamie about this on the show. I was like, look, if you want to see how it's going to be, if we give the Republicans a unified government in Virginia, just look at the House. Look at what's going on in the House. They can't even get along themselves. We had the same thing here in Missouri, where they've been a supermajority for 20 years. They can't even. The Democrats get stuff done because the Republicans all hate each other so much. They have to work with Dems to pass anything because they all hate each other. And so it is really a great way for us to demonstrate exactly what happens by giving Republicans power. And I tell you, I hope groups like my former friends, my former colleagues at the Lincoln Project, and I know we at the Midas Touch Network, which is not a PAC anymore, but a network, and I think all the big super PACs are out there, we're going to be pounding that message. Like, do you really want to give these guys power? And just running on repeat all the cartoonish stupidity that they've done for the last year and a half. I don't know. I mean, the ads write themselves.
Oh no, the comedy skit is what it is, but sadly,
it is
the fact that they're as dysfunctional as they are,
right,
not only shows weakness at home but abroad as well. Yeah. And nothing.
Well,
good,
that's it.
Nothing good comes out of that. And you, as a former military guy, you know as well as anyone, that's not a good environment on the international stage to have this kind of dysfunction at home.
And it's a long-term impact. Let's just take the military part of it, right? Take my veteran status. I got my Hunter First patch here behind me on the wall. This is long-term damage they're doing. I am talking to actual colleagues who have people still in the army, we're in the army still, or have friends in the army. And consistently we're hearing from mid-grade officers, guys or lieutenant colonels, like I wasn't retired. They're like, this isn't worth it. This is just the start. Tuberville and the attacks on Milley, the attacks on wokeness by all these Republicans, they have politicized the military in a way we haven't seen ever. And that, well, actually, frankly, since McCarthy, we haven't seen it since the first McCarthy, when they politicized the communist hunt. And that has long-term damage. You could make a case that one of the reasons we struggled in Vietnam was because it was 20 years after the McCarthy hearings, or 10 to 15 years, and that's because all the good people got out, because generals aren't made overnight. Generals my God, Milley was in the Army 43 years. Okay. The leaders of tomorrow are the junior and mid-grade leaders of today. And they're watching this debacle, seeing what their seniors are going through and saying, you know what? It ain't worth this smoke. I can get a job in the real world where unemployment's like 0% right now, which means I can get a job and I'll be fine, and I'll get paid a bunch of money to go work on Wall Street or somewhere else. And guess what? I don't have to deal with these idiots. And the problem with that is the long-term impact is that when we have a war in 20 years, only the clowns stay behind. Okay, the MAGA chuds, or the people who were scared of getting out because they know they're not going to be able to get a job in the real world. And those clowns will be the leaders of tomorrow. We're going to be in trouble. So the impact on the military isn't just today. It's a long-term impact that can affect our national security for years to come. That's what scares guys like me who are career Army military officers. We know that Tuberville's cute little antics right now is going to destroy the military, not just for now, but for years and years to come. And that's why I hate him with the heat of 1,000 suns.
As we all should. Last question. Who's going to be speaker? Any thoughts?
I think they'll get their stuff together and end up being Scalise. It's going to take him about 4 or 5 days. He's going to make a bunch of deals like McCarthy did, and they'll end up having a very hobbled speaker. Margie Taylor Greene and everybody else will get some deals. George Santos will cut a deal not to get kicked out of Congress till he's convicted. But it'll probably squeeze. It'll probably be next week though, and we'll be right back where we were with McCarthy, a speaker owned by the MAGA minority and a House incapable of actually governing.
Well, fortunately, nothing was going to get done anyway. So
Yeah, it works out well. The good news is they can't pass their stupid ideas either. So,
there you go.
I guess that's a positive.
That is a positive, Fred. I appreciate the time as always. Great stuff.
Always,
appreciate the time. Hope folks will check out the podcast on democracy with FP Wellman. We'll get links out on social media.
Love it.
Appreciate it, man.
Always good, brother. Talk to you soon.
Thanks so much, Fred. I'm going to take a quick break. Right back with your thoughts. Stick around. You're listening to The Rick Smith Show. We're working people. Come to talk.
From the steel mills of Pennsylvania to the auto factories of Michigan to the modern makers movement, manufacturing makes our nation great. I'm Scott Paul, president of the Alliance for American Manufacturing. We bring business and labor together to advocate for policies that everyone can agree on. Together, we can strengthen manufacturing and create good-paying American jobs. Help us keep it made in America.
We are AFGE, the American Federation of Government Employees. We represent 700,000 federal and D.C. government workers who are the vital threads of the fabric of American life. We support our nation's military. We take care of our nation's veterans. We protect our nation's borders. We respond to our nation's crises and natural disasters. We provide services to our nation's seniors. The American Federation of Government Employees. We work for America.
The old factory towns in America's heartland have been taking a beating. Thing is, though, there's a light at the end of the tunnel. The Inflation Reduction Act will lower energy prices and create millions of new jobs by dramatically increasing the manufacturing of solar panels, wind turbines, electric cars, and energy-efficient home appliances. We're finally turning things around after 40 years of screwing over working people. But will we keep moving in the right direction? That's our choice as Americans.
It doesn't matter what kind of weather. It doesn't matter what time of day or night. When Mother Nature's done her worst, the only thing that matters to us is keeping the lights on for you. The hardworking women and men of the International Brotherhood of Electrical Workers, dedicated to keeping the power on in communities all across the country. Because when bad weather strikes, we know what matters most. IBEW, the power professionals.
So the lectern gate continues in Arkansas. Evidently this is still a thing. It's still a thing. Evidently, a citizen journalist has unearthed an email that points out that someone in Sarah Huckabee Sanders' office instructed state employees to write "to be reimbursed" on a months-old invoice for the $19,000 lectern, and specifically told them not to date the notation. Okay. I'm still confused on why $19,000 for a lectern, but this has still got legs. What didn't get a lot of attention is the voucher money in Arkansas, and it's been a year. They have released the first year voucher report, where they say about 4,800 students participated in the first semester of the new K through 12 voucher program, and what they found, it went to mostly religious private schools. It went to mostly people whose kids were already going to private schools. A windfall to the folks who were already there. The state of Arkansas had allocated about $46.7 million in state funds for the voucher program. But the report said that they're going to only expend about $32.5 million over the first year. So far, $7 million's been spent. And as I said, most of that into the hands of, people who are already sending their kids to the private schools. Now, what you're going to see, and this is not going to be shocking, not going to be surprising, it's what it's supposed to do. Every mega church will have a school attached so that they can get state funding, so that they can get their hands into the taxpayer's pocket, get their nose into the taxpayer's trough, and load up. This is the future of education Incorporated. Not really about teaching your kids. It's about the money. So get ready for that, because vouchers are here. This is the latest silver bullet. This is where the big money is pushing. So I expect it to come to my neck of the woods very soon, as there's a crazy group of people running for school board here with a whole bunch of right-wing money behind them, pushing this idea that, the public schools are a failure. Vouchers and all the schemes are not far behind. It's coming. And, I just had one of these conversations the other day with someone who said, I've heard, all of these things, I've heard these private schools are so much better. Yeah, some of the private schools are so much better. The elite ones are. The ones where parents are hyper involved. But you know what? Kids in public schools whose parents are hyper involved, they do well too. But I want to hear your thoughts. Email me, rick@thericksmithshow.com. Are you surprised? First year, money went to people who are already sending their kids. I think we predicted that. If you remember a year ago when Sarah signed that, I think that was the prediction. Not shocking.
Calling all builders, all welders and roofers, engineers and electricians, calling all brick masons and boiler makers, steel workers and steam fitters. Your country is calling you to rebuild America, to create a cleaner, safer, more prosperous future for all. Tackling climate change, this is the job of our lifetime. It's time to build back better. Let's get to work.
Before we close the program, we want to take a moment to thank our viewers and to share a little bit about why we do what we do. At The Rick Smith Show, we believe that media today is almost entirely controlled by corporate greed. So we have now 24-hour news channels. But instead of 24 hours of news, what we get is 1 hour repeated 24 times, and with tons of commercials, creating obscene amounts of profits. Information once presented as a public service has now become a private commodity. So when lies make money, lies are what we get. We get a corporate-controlled rage machine feeding us anger and hate, trying to convince us that our problems are right-left or red-blue, when they are and always have been up-down, the wealthiest 1% versus the rest of us. Our goal is to be an alternative to that machine, not as a news show with a fancy journalist out front, but as a talk show run by a union truck driver and a team of working-class heroes just like you. Everything we do, both what we get right and what we get wrong, is dedicated to advancing the interests of America's working families. No corporate ad buys, no think tanks, no focus groups, no talking points. We are media by working people for working people. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you back here next time.